Hey everyone, welcome to HGTV Handmade with me, Meg and Karen.
Hi guys.
Are you dying to learn a new craft technique? Well, so is Karen. So today we're gonna do a skill swap, and Karen really wants to learn how to watercolor. So I'm going to teach her and you 3 different techniques of how to watercolor your own flowers. The most important thing is having the right supplies. So you definitely wanna make sure you have actual watercolor paper, and you wanna be using natural hair paintbrushes. Of course, you'll also need watercolors in a gorgeous palette. I also recommend having a little dish of water, of course, but then having a cloth to blot up excess water. Let's get started. For this design, we're gonna be using a really fine tipped brush, and you first wet it. And then we're gonna dip it into a nice dark green. All right, so first we're just going to create a little, almost like basket. And you'll just have to kind of find the flow of going between water and paint. And that is definitely something that you sort of figure out as you go. It really is like a muscle memory. So we're just creating a little base here for some flowers with a slightly darker color. And then I'm even just gonna go spray on down for the stem. While that's drying for just a sec, we're gonna put this brush down, pick up another fine tipped brush, get a little water, but we want this one to be a little drier, so then you can also just dab it on your cloth. And we want a little purple in here. And we want it dry because the dry brush is actually gonna create a little like spray. And if it's a little too wet at first on your paper, it's absolutely no problem. You're gonna have to just kind of find the groove of how wet and how dry you want it. You can just pull up some of that, absorb it with your cloth. So we're just layering on these colors, and then while I let my petals dry, I'm gonna go back in with the first brush and a lighter color green, and then we're gonna do some stems in between the first ones we drew just to give a little depth, a little layering. You can even add a little blue in there, and this one's giving me a little bit of like a cloud look and feel. I tried different ones as I was really learning the technique, and I tried a few that had a little bit more spray, some that had some more fine dots, and so it just shows you can sort of...
Those are so pretty, and you can just experiment with all these different designs.
Exactly, and just see what you dig, see what you like. So, we feel good about our first technique?
Yeah, I think that looks great.
I'm really proud of you, that looks really awesome. For our second technique, we're gonna do some bluebell flowers. So, for this guy, first, we're starting off with a pretty thick brush, and we're gonna get this one pretty wet. And then we're gonna go for a really light blue. Start with your lightest color that you want for this one. And we're gonna do a really just simple, small, short brush stroke on the paper. And it's okay if they get lighter as you go. You mostly just want the water. So then we'll put this brush aside. We'll take another brush, wet it just a little bit, and then we want just the tip to have a darker blue on it. And then we're actually just going to put a dot of the darker blue at the top. What we want is the pigment to just naturally spread from the water. Yeah, ooh, that's really blue. And so I'm gonna show you, since that one's bluer than the rest, there we go, it like undoes it. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead, I think I want a little lighter green for this guy. We don't want the stems to overshadow the petals, so we'll start from the bottom, just do a little bit of this, and then like we did at the top, but with the green, just do this, and it doesn't need to spread as much. It's already dry, which is good. We'll just put a few little green dots to create that bud base and bring it into the stem. And then as we move up, we don't have to necessarily finish the stem. You can kind of just indicate that it's heading down there. Oh, I'm really proud. This looks really, really good, Karen.
Thanks, Meg.
That looks really pretty. All right, so are we ready for our third technique?
I think we're ready. Let's do
it.
it.
For our third technique, I'm going to show Karen how to make poppy flowers. We can use this as a visual to follow, but we want to take our biggest paintbrush, and we're gonna get it really, really, really wet. It's mostly water with then a little bit of color, a little bit of red, so we can almost do that and then even like wet it again. The brush is really wet. We just want to like dab off a little here, and then we're gonna come right on in, touch the paper, see how much we have. Yeah, that's where we want. We want really wet, almost like it's sort of bleeding, and we're just going around in like a circle motion, and then we're gonna leave a little part close to the bottom with no pigment. And you can kind of lift your brush a little. We want just like very natural, very organic edges. So my edge is really, really wet here. So I'm just gonna, we want it a little wet, but it's just a bit too much. So I'm gonna pull a little bit of that up with this. I'm gonna wet it again. And this time we wanna have a little bit richer pigment. We're just gonna kind of dab along this edge and then the water is gonna bleed it in towards the petals. And that's how actual flowers look. The edges are a lot more saturated in color. While Karen's finishing up her red, I'm gonna show you how to do the middle part. I'm just gonna get a little yellow and dab a little yellow around the edge, and this is gonna bleed, and that's gonna look really cool. And you see how like the water just kind of spreads it out. The last step of the third technique is adding that beautiful black center. So with the same brush, get it really saturated. And then I just like to do like a little push motion. You don't want to get it too close to the water because it will bleed and spread. You can see here I'm pooling a little bit, and I want that a little bit for the color, but we don't want it too much. So again, I'm doing another dab. And then I just want to add a little bit more saturation. So the last layer is going to be a little bit of a drier red. Less water, more color. All right, so this is the basics of these 3 techniques. And then, you know, as we always say, your first pancake might not look that great, but if you fill a whole page with the technique, you can then sort of pick the one that you like the best, use that as inspiration as you continue on. And then when you pull them all together, you can make a really pretty piece of art, a card, or something to give your friend.
This is so beautiful. When you first pulled this out, I was like, I don't know how she did that. All the colors just work together so nicely.
Oh, thanks, girl. Well, I am so glad that you had me do this challenge because I had to relearn how to do it, and it's been really, really fun.
Oh, so. I'm definitely going home and just making one of these for myself.
Awesome. Which of these 3 techniques is your favorite? Be sure to let us know in a comment below. And of course, subscribe to HGTV Handmade for tons of other awesome DIYs. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye, guys.